Imagine you could have a US bank account without having an SSN, EIN, and without ever living in the US. Well, you don't need to imagine anymore because by the end of this video, I'll show you the exact steps to get a US routing and account number, even if you're not a resident. First things first, we all know that banking in the US is much better for foreign businesses. You can pay and get paid in USD without extra conversion fees, hold funds in stable currency, and access other US banking rails like corporate, credit, or debit cards. That being said, as a foreigner, I know it feels nearly impossible to do. The second you try to open a traditional US bank account, the system hits you with SSN, EIN, a local address, sometimes even an in-person visit to a branch for verification. What are we doing going into branches still? I'm sure a ton of you have gone digging for a way to get around it, and today you don't need to look further because I'm about to show you the solution. All right, so I'm sure you're getting really excited right now, but let's hold on to the details for a second. First, what I want you to do is to go to slash.com, and in the top right corner, click open an account. Then you're gonna enter your email and you're gonna verify it. Once you pick a country outside the US from the drop-down menu, you'll be prompted to open a global USD account. Click that, and I'll show you how to fill out the application so you don't get stuck in verification hell. Now, before we jump into filling out this application correctly, we need to understand one fundamental thing about why traditional banks leave people stuck and how to get past it. To put it simply, your application doesn't get stuck or rejected by traditional banks because you're foreign. Yes, there might be some scrutiny, but the real reason is simple. They reject you when they can't verify you, your business, or your story in a clear and efficient way. Most banks just want some version of proof you are who you say you are, proof your business is real, and proof your information is consistent. And if anything feels a little bit off, like your website, invoices, local address, business model, that's when you'll get pushed toward in-person branch visits, extra documentations, delays, and well, verification hell. That's why traditional banks like Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America can be brutal for non-residents. And trust me, we all feel your pain. So what's the big takeaway here? The problem isn't just opening a business bank account. The problem is passing verification with a clear and consistent story. Make sure you keep that in mind when we go through the application process together. All right, so now that we know the problem, what's the solution here? Well, there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is that after doing a ton of digging myself, there aren't many easy fixes that actually help non-residents get what they need, even if you have a clean and solid story. But the good news is that Slash has released what they call global USD accounts that address this exact problem. It's a more global, more digital, more financially innovative option than the traditional banks. And it's designed specifically for non-resident business owners and operators. Slash positions these global USD accounts as a way to access the US financial system without a personal SSN or ITIN, and even without an EIN, with verification all done online, because that's how 21st century businesses should run. So don't worry, you're not gonna get randomly called in for a visit by your banker. Now, I can't stress this enough because this is huge for non-residents, because it means you can get the US account details you need to operate without flying to the US and without walking into a local branch. Basically, Slash Global USD solves all of the major problems foreign businesses face with banking. You don't need a SSN, EIN, or in-person visit. You can send global payments faster, easier, and cheaper, and you get to hold your USD securely. All right, now that we're all caught up, let's get to the fun part and actually fill this application out the right way. Okay, so if you've verified your email and selected your country and then click the global USD account option, you should now be on the application page. All right, so before we start filling this out, here's what you'll need as we go through this process. First, you'll need a valid passport or a government ID. Second, business formation documents. If you have formation documents, keep the PDFs ready, or you can have the physical copies just so that you can upload them easily when prompted. Third, the EIN section. Now, in a traditional US business bank account, as we discussed, EIN comes up constantly, but as you know, you can create a Slash Global USD account without providing an EIN. So when you get to that part in the application, all you have to do is click the Don't Have an EIN option right under the text field. The fourth thing that it'll ask you for is a proof of physical address. Again, you do not need a US address. Just use the physical address of where you live right now. And it does have to be a real physical address, so no PO boxes or virtual addresses. We need to know where you're actually staying or doing business. So for example, if you live in Belgium, you'll use the apartment, house, or office address in Belgium, and you'll upload something like a bank statement, utility bill, government letter, or a lease that just shows the same address. From there on out, the rest of the application is pretty straightforward. You'll just complete the KYC, also known as Know Your Customer, use a phone number you can verify, have a few customer invoices on hand, and be ready to answer some basic questions about your source of funds. Now, if your application has ever been stuck in review, it's usually because your business description is too vague and your documents don't match the rest of the information you provided. So make sure you're double checking absolutely everything. And if you made it to this part of the video, then here's a little bonus. You can steal and rewrite the text you see on the screen right now, word for word, in the Please Tell Us What Your Business Does section. This will help make your application process much easier. So you'll write something like, we are a, and then your business type, serving the customer type you're serving in the country or market that you're in. You're then gonna write, we get paid via, and then the platform, whether it's invoices, contracts, etc. And then your typical transaction size and what you're gonna use the account for, whether it's payroll, vendors, ads, or inventory. Then I want you to do 3 additional things that will help boost your approval rating. Number 1, have a website that clearly says what you do and who you're serving. Number 2, keep your revenue estimates as accurate as possible. Number 3, reply quickly if you get a request for an invoice or contract or some sort of verification from the Slash team. Now, I know this checklist seems a little simple and you'll see us talk about it again and again, but the key difference is how clear your story is when you're actually writing it on the application. So make sure you're not just ingesting this information and then forgetting it when you actually fill it out. Make sure that it's very simple and easy to understand for anyone that's reviewing your application in general. Now let's clear up some terms because people mix these up from time to time. Traditional banks are pretty obvious. There are the Chases, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and they're all built around US resident expectations, visiting local branches, going to the ATMs, local documentation, and often SSN or EIN requirements. A lot of neobanks, on the other hand, are basically online banks, or in more technical terms, modern UIs on top of the traditional rails of banking. And that can still mean proving that you're a US entity with an EIN or a local address, depending on the platform that you're using. Slash's global USD account is positioned completely differently from those two because it's built specifically for international business owners who need US access without these typical blockers. And if your business operates globally, here's the best part. Slash supports modern USD movement, including things like USDC and USDT. This matters if you pay overseas suppliers or move money across the globe pretty regularly. So now you might be wondering, what type of business owner is Slash's global USD account actually the best for? Well, number 1, international founders who sell to US customers and need a US account to receive payouts. For example, if you run an e-commerce or online service, or maybe even an agency, that single change can make the headache of payments much smoother. Number 2, if you're a business owner paying overseas suppliers. If you're constantly dealing with global payments and high fees, you'll want something built specifically for your use case so you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops through the typical providers that will constantly flag every single payment. Number 3, anyone that's getting blocked by not having an SSN, EIN, or being asked for in-person local branch verification. So if that's you or any of the above, then it's time to stop letting the typical providers slow you down from starting or continuing your business globally. And if you've watched this far into the video, you already know this is a pivotal moment in your business journey because the difference between almost there and fully operational is usually just access. The team at Slash has spent countless hours building the global USD account for global operators in 130 plus countries so you can access US dollar banking and payments without needing a US LLC or an EIN and without the traditional runaround. Because we believe that when international businesses can use a real US account remotely, they stop getting blocked by traditional routes and get back to what actually matters: getting paid, paying vendors, growing faster, and realizing your business dreams and goals. So take advantage of it. Open the account, follow the checklist, and if you want the exact step-by-step guide, you can either rewatch this video or click the blog post that is linked in the description. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.